Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me over the program for tonight Dr. Nabil Abdel, the planning and project management expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me with you. Thank you.
Anytime. We did see in the past report the directives made by His Excellency President Abdel al-Sisi to be developing the state-owned assets for the benefit of the industrial sector here in Egypt. What is the importance of such a step?
It is very important, but before we go further into such point for the current time,
yes,
we must understand exactly why did the government did that a while ago. If we have started and looked into the period from 2011 to 2015, for example, you can see that we have experienced two revolutions, which required a very much in-depth interference from the government to increase the share of its share in the project itself,
yes,
for creating much more jobs, because the government or the state, normally they cannot force the private sector. So they have increased the state-owned shares during that time. Afterward, the planning and reorganizing has started, which came to the point which we are talking right now.
Mm-hmm.
Starting from November, from last November, the government has started to create what is called asset ownership document, state ownership document for the government assets and so on,
yes,
for replanning, for having a higher increase in the private sector share for the current project itself. Mm-hmm. After the government has done its main role in the past for creating jobs, for paving roads, for establishing and creating the real infrastructure which projects need. For the time being, that means what we are seeing right now and supervising right now is that the government is trying to increase the private sector share. That means it's going to give much more power for the private sector and lowering and minimizing the share of the government itself. The importance of this is strengthening the private sector and the industrial sectors in different sectors, in industrial operation, in different sectors, in trade, and whatever it is.
Are those steps attractive for the investors, in your opinion?
Yes, of course. It is very much, especially when we know that when the government or when the state itself being represented in the Prime Minister and the people in charge for the planning, they have created two groups actually since November 2022,
yes,
for having a criteria for what is important, what's necessary for the private sector, what's important for the state-owned, for having the right balance between the two parties.
We study the needs of the investors. What do they need from us?
That's correct. The needs of the investors, in the meantime, the balance which is required by the government for having the right balance for the people themselves.
Yes.
And that was very important. That means the government, by that time, let's say in 3 years from now, it will be having a real regulatory role, which will be strengthening and facilitating the role for the investors, either locally or internationally.
One of the directives made by His Excellency President al-Sisi is that we need to be developing industries, the management of those industries, and the marketing of those industries as well. Speaking first of all of the first element, industry in general here in Egypt, do you think that we need to be developing what we have or what we had in the past, or do we need to be looking into new industries regarding technology, for example, for the future?
Actually, both. You need to update the technology, which is for different industries which has already existed, for making the best use of the current investment or the past investment which has been done.
Yes.
So updating the technology, updating the management systems, updating, that means transferring the know-how from outside Egypt to, from the advanced world to our country, transferring the knowledge into the youth, which is the future leaders, and also in the meantime developing such industries and leaders means you will be having less independence on the hard currency which you are importing for different products and different items from outside. Of course, it will pay off at the end.
And do we have the capabilities to be doing both at the same time, to be looking into new industries that cope with the future, like information technology, and to be developing what we already had in the past, like for cotton, for example?
Definitely we do. We used to do that in the past, and we have the capability for doing that, and we have the will. If we needed to do something, if we are willing to do something, we have the real will for proceeding with this. And I think during all such last period, we have proven to ourselves that when Egypt wanted to do something, it will be done. In answering to your question, do we have the capability? Yes, we do. Especially in the information technology, as you've already mentioned, we are considered, among others in worldwide countries, one of the very good exporters for the information technology. We got very good mentalities. We got very good creative youth here in Egypt. And yes, we can do it. In addition to the textile and clothing sector, which is considered very big part and very big and huge and huge in industrial era. Yes. In the meantime, you can rely on such sector for invading the worldwide countries as we used to do in the last, especially when you start as the indications or at the instructions of the President Abdel Fattah has started by cultivation first. That means improving the quality of the cotton itself, and then irrigation, water, industrial, and how to trading, marketing. Yes. That means you are trying to develop a whole system for the industry. So.
Doctor, as yourself as a project management expert, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi highlighted the importance of managing the industries that we have, managing the resources that we have. What is the importance of changing the mindset in terms of management that we have here in Egypt nowadays?
The importance of changing the mentality itself here. Sorry.
Bless you.
The importance of changing the mentality here means you've got to work smart. That means you are going to work, you are going to plan, you are going to achieve in a very smart way. In a very smart way. In the meantime, you are not going to work freely. You are not going to work on your own.
Yes.
You are going to work in a very planned, organized way for having a specific result and achievement at the end. Yes, can we do that? Yes, can we do that? We have the mentality, we have the leadership skills that can do that, and also a very important that we have the political will for proceeding into and succeeding in such a challenge.
Yes, success is a key word here because we invest a lot. We attract the investments from the outside world, from outside Egypt, to be coming and investing and to be going through the process with the private sector, not just the private sector, but the government as well, all the developments or the components that are taking place. Success is the key word, as I said, but it needs marketing. In your opinion, the percentage needed for the marketing to be making the product that I'm doing, that I'm producing at the end of the day, a success in terms of industry, how much percent do we need of success?
Actually, when you establish a project, whatever it takes, whatever fund you need for the project itself,
yes,
you have to consider a very important element inside the project management, which is marketing. It should be very focused, very intensive, and very well planned, because if you have done the best product in the world without marketing, that means no one would see what you're doing, no one knows what you are doing, and no one would see the competitive edge in the products you are producing or the project you are conducting. Success, yes, success means having all such elements together for the project, including the technology of the product itself, producing what the international market and local markets need, producing in right way, right time, having the right methodology and path for reaching out to the outside world. That all means marketing. Marketing in terms of export for the international markets, and also in terms of awareness for how important, how quality, how good is the product itself, for replacing the important product by the local product.
Doctor, you have mentioned a very important paradox that we need to be focusing on the international market and the local market at the same time. In terms of marketing, do you think that we need to be marketing whatever we have for the exports, for the international market, as well as the local market at the same time? Or do we need to be having a customized plan for the outside world? If we have something or a product that the outside world, we should be marketing this for the people outside of Egypt, not just for the people living within it.
Actually, there must be two types of marketing. Marketing for the outside world means you've got to understand what the worldwide countries needs, and it's not only one world. Yes. For the outside world, it's different worlds. That means different markets. That means different needs. Europe in different areas, Scandinavian, Middle Europe, West, whatever we call it, rather than the USA, for example, which is Latin and
another continent.
It's a different continent.
Yes.
Africa, different needs, different persons. That means you've got to have a very customized marketing plans for different areas and different people with different mentalities, but they all have very unique selling point, USP, which must be based on your capabilities for producing their needs. This is somehow different, or this is totally different than producing for the local market here. For the local market, you've got to have, also you've got to know, according to the type of product you are producing, you've got to know what kind of products the local people needs here, what levels of lifestyle you are targeting, which segments you are talking about, what criteria for what needs, and so on. That's why when you watch TV or read a commercial or something or advertisement,
yes,
you definitely will understand what are we targeting, what messages we are coding for the customers. So at the end, yes, you've got to have different type of marketing, a customized marketing for the international world according to the territory itself you are segmenting, or to the local market here, which must be different, of course, according even to the territory we are talking about, or we are targeting. Cairo, Alexandria, the Kahliya, Sharqiya, whatever the government is, or whatever the territory is.
Yes, the regions within Egypt and outside of
That's
Egypt
correct.
as well. What is the role of the private sector in all of that?
It's a very big role, actually, because it's totally different than the government role here. The role of the private sector is studying the needs of the international and the local market, and creating the necessary plans for both, actually, for producing professionally the needs of the market, of the people locally, yes, and also producing the needs of different territories in worldwide countries, and at the end of the day, to have your efforts pay off for even for all the marketing plans you are doing, and then it will be translated into real exports to different parts in the world, and also a very good volume of sales in local marketing.
You've mentioned the sector of textiles, and the textiles industry here in Egypt, and more specifically, as we did see in the past, Al-Mahalla, Al-Kubra in the governorate of Al-Gharbiyya. How do you see the future of this industry here in Egypt under the tenure of His Excellency President Al-Sisi? Because there are plans to be developing that.
I can pretend that if we have conducted the real plans and we have implemented in a smart way, we are going to invade by means of invading, because till the moment you can see the Egyptian products. Me myself, many times I purchased very good quality of shirts or other cotton products,
yes.
And then after purchasing them, to my surprise, it's an Egyptian made. So yes, we can invade. Yes, we can invade if we have applied the right parameters, which is needed for the international markets, according to the territory again. But yes, we can invade, and we can have very good market share internationally.
According to the directives and the statements made by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, we need to be localizing the industries. How can we be doing that? And which industries to be doing that or starting with?
Information technology, telecommunication, petroleum, nuclear power. All such industries should be localized. Localized mean...
but aren't those expensive?
It is,
especially the information technology and the nuclear energy.
We have already been involved in information technology, and we have a very good share. We have very good minds here in Egypt, even for the information technology people, especially for when we talk about ETIDA. ETIDA is doing very good efforts for teaching and training most of the youth, which is undergraduate or even postgraduate,
yes.
for creating calibers, which is good for the future. Even the products, the IT products, which in terms of software and sometimes hardware, we are doing good, and still we can triplicate the volume which is being done right now if we have done the localization, which means trying to transform the know-how, the knowledge from outside step by step to the local market, and then re-export again or even locally use it.
Do we have the facilities to do that, the infrastructure to be beginning with that?
Of course, yes. The government has been, and even the private sector has been doing a lot of efforts during the last decade for creating the right infrastructure for starting a professional information technology sector and industry. And yes, of course, you can visit the Smart Village at Alexandria Road. You will be proud of what's being done right now. You can see the information technology sectors in worldwide countries. You will find at least one Egyptian is working over there and leading such industry. Yeah, we do have.
Even outside of Egypt?
Even outside of Egypt. In the GCC countries, in Africa, in Europe, in USA, in every territory in worldwide countries, you will find an Egyptian working in such industry. Yes.
Doctor, you mentioned a key word during the course of this episode, the know-how. We need to be transforming and transferring the know-how from the outside world into Egypt, and more specifically into industry, to be developing the industrial sector for the future. What are the incentives the government, the private sector, the ordinary people could be offering the people from outside of Egypt to be coming and teaching us and giving us the experience and the expertise of launching a whole new phase of industry?
Actually, 2 decades ago, we could have been talking about tax exemption.
Yes.
But currently, we cannot talk about tax exemptions only, or we can stop talking about tax exemptions, but we can talk about how big is our market, why, how useful and how benefits you can get from starting such projects right here, because we are the gateway for different parts in the world, like Africa, like
the Arab world,
the Arab
Middle
world,
East, the
GCC,
Mediterranean
the
countries.
strategic location, which is Egypt, and right here, all the economic territories and regions which Egypt has created in different parts in Egypt, and also the expansion of the inhabitant area and the new areas, new territories, new cities we are creating. We got everything. I think we are preparing all such territories for the right time, which is now, I think.
One of the statements made as well in the past few weeks by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli about the industrial sector, that it could be boosting the national economy. How do you think this could be done as soon as possible, because we need it?
Yes, we need it, because when we talk about industrial operations or industrial sectors, that means the more you rely on industrial industries, local industry in Egypt, that means the less you rely on imports from outside Egypt.
Yes.
And even for a while, for almost a decade right now, lots of Egyptian people, Egyptian investors, well-reputed companies, they are attracting foreign partners, foreign investors for coming over to produce in Egypt, and in the meantime for the local market consumption, and also for the purpose of export to all the bilateral agreement countries you have signed agreements with.
Ever since 2019, we have seen the coronavirus pandemic, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and the whole global circumstances that have affected the Egyptian economy, the African economy, the Arab economy. Everything around us is being affected altogether. But on the other hand, how can we be aiming to develop the industrial sector despite the global challenges that we have witnessed in the past few years?
Actually, we have started, or the government actually has been in the last 5 years, for example, we have started to build, they have started to build the infrastructure needed for such industrial society or industrial community. Also, the government has created the food silos, which
Yes.
is, for example, Kaha and Itfina complex. They are preparing to, the two giant companies, to start actual production with updated and upgraded industry methodology and products. That means we have started preparation for this, and in the very near future, which I think in a couple or 3 years, we will all be noticing a very important difference between what was and what would be happening at the time, from relying more on the local industries.
Yes, Doctor, we will be heading to the second report of the daily debate for tonight, as one of the statements made by the Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Hala Said, that we need to be boosting manufacturing and industry in the upcoming fiscal year of 2023. All this and more in the upcoming report. So stay tuned.
Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Hala Said, reviewed the plan of the year 2022-2023 for the manufacturing and industrial sector, electricity, and the field of environmental improvement. This came during her delivery of the statement of the Sustainable Development Plan for the fiscal year 2023 and the basic features of the plan document before the Parliament. Ms. Said indicated that the manufacturing sector is targeted to achieve a real growth rate of 7.7% during the year of the plan, which would raise the contribution rate of industrial output to about 21% of the GDP. Investments directed to the manufacturing sector are estimated at 93.5 billion Egyptian pounds, an increase of 6% over the investments of the previous year. About 80% of them belong to non-petroleum industries.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I'm honored to be having with me over the program for tonight Dr. Nabil Abdel, the planning and the project management expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the program. Thank you very much. As we did see in the past report, one of the statements made by the Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Hala Said, is that we need to be focusing on manufacturing, but as well on the environmental protection at the same time. Do you think that this is accessible, this could be done, especially that we had hosted the COP27 here in Egypt, and the COP28 will be hosted in the Middle East once again in the United Arab Emirates?
Actually, doing both together will need a lot of funds, a lot of finance, and I think the government is working on both.
Yes.
With the European Union, for example, for the environment issues, with full support, and according to the COP21, 22, I think also they should be validating a few funds for such purpose. Local manufacturing, working on an international standards, it is required, especially if you have planned to not only to locally produce a market, but also for the purpose of exports. And according to the last two important events which has happened, or crises like COVID-19 and also Russian Ukrainian war,
yes,
worldwide countries are still suffering.
Dr. Hala also mentioned that the same word that you have said, competitiveness. We need competitiveness with the outside world, so we need quality products to be produced here in the country. What do you think is missing here? What is the missing link to be producing quality products from Egypt and into the outside world, into the outside markets, to be gaining more benefits?
This is exactly what President Abdel Sisi has mentioned. Management and marketing. Marketing means not only means one way that we should sell to the world. No, marketing means also knowing what the world needs, and according to the world needs or different world countries' needs, we have to bring it over right here, start to work on it for production. And management, how to do that effectively, considering all such parameters which we have talked about.
What are the industries that we need to be focusing on in order to be decreasing the imports?
Food, number one, and number two and number three, strategic commodities, if we could.
Yes.
Strategic commodities like wheat, for example, rice, although rice takes a hell of water, corn, most of the strategic commodities which we can do it right here, yes, we have to focus on it in addition to the food in general. Afterward, the textile and clothing industry and information technology, and so on, in a preferential way.
Do we need to be attracting investments in order to be pumping more money into those industries, or do we need to be depending on ourselves in terms of the private sector or the government?
No, actually we have to be very attractive for the FDI, what is called foreign direct investment.
Yes.
Yes, we have to be able to attract such foreign investments, because attracting more investments mean much more cash in from outside, the hard currency from outside to the local market, in addition to the know-how again. This is what is also has been mentioned in what President Abdel Sisi has mentioned, which is management. This is a part of the management itself. How you can create all such parameters, environment, for local and international marketing and producing, increasing the industries which we are relying on locally, increasing the industries which can be exported again. This is all a kind of management and marketing in the meantime.
So how can we be attracting those types of investments in those industries that we need here in Egypt, especially that there is competition from the other countries, the neighboring countries, to be specific? What is the advantage that we have for the investors? What are the incentives that we could be offering them?
Actually, it's not only incentives, but it's also kind of bureaucratic. We have to work on being less bureaucratic in decision making, and facilitating the way for the investors, in being more organized societies for in the business community, very strict and very transparent in government facilitation and so on.
Yes.
And as long as the government would be more regulatory, much more than a competitor, that would attract much more investors.
The global economic crisis that we have witnessed all over the world, not just in Egypt, not just in Africa, how did you see the response of the Egyptian government towards protecting the lower income citizens nowadays?
Actually, that started since 2011.
Yes.
Since the first Jan revolution and the second revolution, and then COVID-19, and then Russian-Ukrainian 19. Currently, the GDP for the state-owned share,
Yes.
50% government, 50% private sector. Although in Latin America, for example, the government share or state-owned shares is 12%.
For the government?
For the government, yes. In Europe, for example, it's more like 30% maximum, and in a few countries even lower than this. That means during such period from 2011 till the moment, the government tried to create a much more economic activities,
Yes.
To fund much more money for different projects in real estate, in paving the ways, and construction, and whatever it takes for the government, for creating much more jobs, which was required from the Prime Minister as a government, for creating 1 million jobs. And I think it succeeded. It succeeded in this, although all the crises which is coming one after another.
What do you see the measures that we need to be doing in order to be lowering the percentage of the governmental participation in this sector, in this field in specific, that we need, as you mentioned, 12% for Latin America, 30% for Europe. We have here 50% for the government.
This is exactly what we call the document, which is a state-owned share document.
Yes.
Has been created for, and they have created and they had 8 points to discuss and to fulfill during the coming period. Keeping in mind that they want, according to the document itself, they have studied the previous cases for such for any territory, any country has done that before, and they have made use of the most successful experiences in most successful 3 countries like China, India, and Indonesia.
Yes.
Those countries has done the same almost. That's why they have created here, since last November, 2 groups, and they were preparing the criteria which is required for having a successful pathway for the transformation needed. But it is required that the government, the economic sector, the economic projects which is already existed, there must be very specific activities. The government should be lowering and minimizing, and even exit. It must have exit plan from such activities. Few activities.
And we can see those steps being made nowadays.
Yeah, correct, right. Few companies has been offered for being sold. for being sold to different countries or different companies. In the meantime, the government must lower the shares itself without being exit from the activity, and there are specific activities which is very strategic and very important for the country itself to keep on the same share in for example, like water, electricity, and so on.
Yes, Dr. Nabil Moula, the planning and project management expert. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure being with you and your audience. Thank you.
This brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. I will be leaving you, however, with the latest from the presidential activities of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the past week during the upcoming report. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi welcomed Mr. Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, the Prime Minister of Iraq. Official spokesperson for the presidency, Councillor Ahmed Fahmy, stated that during the meeting, President al-Sisi underscored Egypt's constant support for the security and stability of the sisterly country of Iraq and doubled down on the value of the strategic relations between both nations. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received Mr. Mohammed al-Shamisi, the Managing Director and Group CEO of AD Ports Group, in the presence of Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, the Prime Minister. The meeting tackled the horizons of joint cooperation with AD Ports Group, especially with respect to developing logistics zones and ports. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi follows up on the status of the National Agricultural Production and Land Reclamation Project in the New Delta, within the framework of the state strategy for expanding the area of agricultural land in ratio to the overall area of the Republic of Egypt. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi follows up on the underway plans for upgrading and advancing the textile industry sector in Egypt, including all stages of production. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi holds a phone call with the President of Kenya, William Ruto. Both presidents underlined the existence of vast horizons for furthering the excellent bilateral relations and pushing forward the frameworks of joint cooperation between Egypt and Kenya, to say nothing of being in accord with each other as to intensifying coordination and consultation between the two countries to reinforce the frameworks of joint African work. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi follows up on the status of the Kaha and Itfina complex for advanced food industries, along with the progress of work in the food industrial city, Silo Foods in Sadet City in Munofia Governorate, after launching its second phase last February. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi gets briefed on the ongoing works to build and upgrade a number of maritime ports in line with the state-of-the-art engineering, constructional and environmental technologies. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi welcomes Lloyd Austin, Defense Secretary of the United States of America, and his accompanying delegation, and discusses with the U.S. Defense Secretary efforts for consolidating peace and stability on the regional and international levels. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi attends the cultural seminar organized by the Armed Forces marking Martyr Day under the title The Price. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi holds a phone call with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Official spokesperson for the presidency, Councillor Ahmed Fahmy, stated the call witnessed an exchange of congratulations on the occasion of observing the 80th anniversary of the beginning of diplomatic relations between the two friendly countries. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi sends 2 telegrams of condolences to the servant of the 2 holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdel Aziz, King of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and to His Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince and Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, on the sad incident of the passing of Princess Jawhara bint Abdel Aziz bin Abdul Rahman Al Saud. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi performs the Friday prayers at the Field Marshal Tantawi Mosque on the occasion of Martyr Day. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi sends a telegram of congratulations to the Chinese President Xi Jinping on the occasion of his re-election for a new term as the President of the People's Republic of China. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi received Mr. Liu Zhejiang, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the China International Energy Group, and his accompanying delegation of senior officials of the group.